Hello, America. I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in today. The average price of a gallon of gas now is $3.83. I want to show you a chart here of gas prices to see how gas prices have gone up and down in the last couple of years. If you look here back at September 2005, this is where Katrina hit. You notice that Katrina hit and everything was relatively okay with the oil production. It wiped out 25% of our oil production, 10 to 15% refinery capacity, but then it was an event, it was over, and so we could get back to normal. Then we had some problems. In the summer of 2006, we had refinery issues. Some were shut down because of the hurricane damage, while others were, had to install and upgrade equipment to meet the new gasoline regulations. So, Hurricane Katrina and gasoline regulations. Then we hit the 2007 period, and here's summer again. Remember, we also hit summer and it automatically goes up. Summer of 2007, there was a series of refinery problems, a fire at a Chevron site, mechanical problems at some sites in California, but don't worry about that. Let's not build any new refineries. That doesn't mean anything. Summer 2008, this goes through the refinery problem, then summer 2008. This is where everybody was standing at the oil pumps and saying, you got to elect a Republican. And then what happened? Then we had speculation. Oil inventories were lower than normal. Market speculation didn't help. This is the period right now where the market is starting to collapse. This is the TARP area right here. And this is where the Pentagon said somebody was playing games. Well, it couldn't have anything to do with oil, huh? $145 a barrel in July. It comes down. The president is elected. Here's the market crash. Here we are. Look at this. The whole average is higher. Look at that. It never goes down to the peak. He is elected and never goes down. Now it goes on. Now here's Egypt. Now the Middle East unrest is happening. And look at it go up. When it hits this is 412. When it hits 412, remember what happened. Look at this. What do you think is going to happen? When it comes to gas, you must ask yourself these questions. Is it getting better or worse in the Middle East? Is it becoming the Middle East more or less stable? What do you think? Are we depending on us at all? Meaning, are we exploring and exploiting our own resources? And are we making friends that can help? Are we making any alliances with any rich nations? Well, let's start with the top question. Is the Middle East becoming more or less stable? What do you think? Things are worse in the Middle East. Libya is in the middle of a civil war now. Egypt is turning to Islamic extremism. Who saw that one coming? There is strife in Syria, Yemen, Bahrain. Algeria, of course, Israel is under constant attack from its neighbors, including Iran. The United States, who was revealed, is now involved in Syria and the unrest there. No, not a problem. Not a problem. Is it going to get better or worse this summer? Now, question number 2, are we exploring our own resources? Are we looking for it? No. In fact, the EPA say we are now hiring more people because they can't keep up with the new Gulf regulations. Cass Sunstein. We should be opening every conceivable option for oil. The Gulf, Alaska, new reserves found in Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, offshore, Florida, California. As much oil as we have in shale in Utah and Colorado. We have so much shale, we have as much shale as Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Venezuela, Nigeria, Kuwait, Libya, Angola, Algeria, Indonesia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates combined. With that, we also have enough coal to power our nation for centuries, not decades, centuries. We could also be developing nuclear power. But no, that's too dangerous. The other are too dirty. So we do nothing. The president gives a speech and wants to put 1 million more electric cars on the road. Well, could you bring that chart back up here again? Guess what? Because electric is generated by something. Something. Is it coal? Is it gas? What is it? We're reducing our coal, the president says, when he lays his plan out, that it will make the electricity prices necessarily skyrocket. So what are we doing? Remember, when this gets up to here, look what happened last time. Are we more stable or less stable as a country? Are we making alliances with other countries? No. No, quite the opposite. We've just managed to anger Saudi Arabia. And you know what's really neat? The right leader, Le Pen in France, she could face President Sarkozy in next year's election. Recent polls have her edging him out 23-21 of the vote. Le Pen said that if she wins, she's going to leave NATO and she'll make a new alliance with Russia. Oh, why? Because of energy security interests. Basically, they need oil, and they are making friends with the Russians for it. What Reagan said would happen is now happening. They built a pipeline, Russia did, and Russia controls the oil, the spigot. And the power of the world is shifting. So what a surprise that France is the first to tuck its tail between its legs and go running to Mother Russia. We must be making some friends, right? Well, we are. We're making friends with Brazil, the country that just elected a Marxist guerrilla who spent time in prison for trying to overthrow the government. She's leading the country that we wrote a check, you and me, $2 billion for Petrobras, corporate welfare. It was this week last year that the BP oil rig exploded in the Gulf of Mexico, causing the White House to shut down deep-sea drilling. But we gave Petrobras the approval to have the first deep-water floating production storage facility there. Not to an American, but to the Brazilians. Then the president went to Brazil and said that we should form a strategic alliance with Brazil. Not a strategic alliance. It's a redistribution of wealth. Oil does one thing. It makes everything on the planet work. Your trains, your trucks, your sewage, your sewing machine, your windmills, our farmers' tractors. The good news is we're exploring ethanol. But at least we have an endless supply of corn, right? No. No, we don't. The next crisis we face, that is going to collide with gas. Next. Bank and the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, all got together in Washington to discuss their biggest concerns. And topping the list, food prices. The head of the World Bank said this about food prices.
This is the biggest threat today to the world's poor, where we risk losing a generation. We are one shock away from a full-blown crisis.
What could that one shock be? Could it be something like Japan or the Middle East? Could it be, let's say, in the heartland we have tornadoes? What would that one shock be? I'd like them to be a little more specific. And what does it mean, a full-fledged crisis? Whether it's 245 tornadoes in one weekend, or the flooding in Australia, or the fires in the Middle East, or the earthquakes in Japan. It doesn't matter. The world is on edge, and our corn supply is now reaching a 15-year low. The Agricultural Department expects the reserves to drop by 5% of all the corn consumed by our country. That's not good. Ethanol demands aren't helping. They are up to 5 billion bushels, which is 40% of total crops. Gee, food or fuel? Which should we do? Should we burn our food? Am I making too much of this? Well, he's the fearmonger, not me. Let me tell you about a conversation I had with a commodities trader when I was in Chicago last week. Next. For the day, and I had a chance to talk to a trader at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Some stunning numbers he threw my way to show how high the price of food has risen and could possibly rise. Let me show you the farmland that we have devoted to corn. Here it is. Look at all the U.S. farmers plant 92.2 million acres of corn this year. That is 4 million acres more than we planted last year. Meanwhile, our corn supply is nearing a 15-year low. Well, why is that? Why are we having problems with food? Trader told me that we have 15 to 18 days of grain in our silos. So if there's any kind of disruption in our chain, we're in trouble. But don't worry, because we can always grow more, right? No, we can't. We're committed to ethanol. Look at the regions with ethanol refineries. Here they are. Whoa, look at all of them right there around Chicago, Illinois. Isn't that weird? There are 204 refineries operating and another 9 under construction. Oil refineries? No. Ethanol? Sure. Last year, our country produced 13 billion gallons of ethanol. That's up 800% over a decade. So here's how our corn usage breaks down. We are expected this year to produce 13.5 billion bushels of corn this year alone. Total ethanol, 5 billion bushels. That's 37% of the total. Total used for food, 1.1 billion. 8.3% of the total. And we're not talking just about corn. The number includes corn syrup, corn and cereal, alcohol, everything. Corn exports, 16%. But don't worry. If the world is hungry, if there's a storm, if there's any kind of disruption, we'll just plant more corn. Oh, no, wait a minute. We can't do that because then gas prices would skyrocket. See, it's back to food or fuel again. I'm seeing a pattern here. It's almost like we're being set up for a lose-lose. One global shock. But the good news is at least we have the geniuses in Washington telling you that you shouldn't even worry about preparing or having a little something extra around the house. Back in a minute. We are going to spend time in this final chapter just talking to you, and we'd like to hear from you on what you think needs to be covered before our next chapter begins. Passover is a holiday that reminds us that God does not forget His people, His children, and the promises that He has made them. He delivers His people from bondage. Passover begins tonight. From New York, good night, America.